All right, and you've got 3 minutes. Question number one. Does systemic racism still affect the black community?
Yes, so I'm going to be taking the position that systemic racism still affects the Black community. For the sole purposes of this debate, we've agreed on this definition of systemic racism being the oppression of a racial group to the advantage of another, as perpetuated by inequity within interconnected systems, political, economic, and social systems, right? Also, for this debate, I am going to just say that systemic racism does not exist, right? Because we're not going to be able to point to any type of policy or legislation or procedure that is going to be carried out by the society. That then would beg the question of why is it that Black Americans are still suffering today? When we take a look at the criminal justice system, we can see that in federal prison, we're 3 times likely to make up that population. When we take a look at the wealth disparity, it is a huge issue. When we are taking a look at the education system, we can tell that our Black students are only graduating at a 77% compared to our white counterparts who are graduating at an 83%. So the question then becomes, is there a variable that are causing these disparities? There can only be one of two things. Either systemic racism had an aftertaste effect that is still affecting Black Americans today, or Black people are just inherently stupid, lazy, and violent, which makes absolutely no sense.
Go ahead, I'll
So, the,
pause the time.
so when we're taking No, no, you're good. So when we're taking a look at this system and how it was set up and we're going back in time, we can see that there's clearly some type of effect that systemic racism had to play in our society at some point in time. Now, if we're going to sit here and say that there are no ripple effects to this, I would just say that you're being intellectually dishonest, right? There are ripple effects as it pertains to 9/11. There are ripple effects as it pertains to hurricanes that hit New Orleans. Just because those said things are not happening at the time, just because those said things are not happening at that time does not mean that individuals would not be affected by it. So either Black people are inherently stupid, lazy, or violent, which would mean, right, from a natural sense, that there is no excuse and it's predicated off of choice, or there has to be some type of human mind, social construct that is in play that are creating the
45
disparities
seconds left.
between Black and brown people and white people. That's it. I'm conceding my time.
All right, AJ, same question. Does systemic racism still affect the black community?
Does systemic racism exist? Yes. Are there residual effects from historical setbacks? Yes. But let's unpack this. As a Black American who is a descendant of slaves, I am well aware of the social, political, and economic systems that were enforced against my ancestors. We could talk about slavery, Black codes, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, unions, the 13th Amendment. Yet the resilience of Black people in this nation, when there were laws on the books when that said they couldn't, is a testimony to how complaints about residual effects is a cop out steeped in mental slavery. Many of our ancestors owned millions of acres of land and thrived in a post Civil War America. So I am not so inclined to care about crocodile tears over pronouns, government grants, name calling, racially charged jokes, microaggressions, outdated affirmative action programs, co signing sexual perversion, and the most annoying of them all, feelings. If our ancestors operated in emotionalism, there would be no record of their triumphs. We would simply be a people who were bought and sold again, then perished. I stand on the legacy of some of the greatest human beings that ever existed. And I will not spit on their legacy by pretending that the challenges I face today are in any way comparable to what they endured. Socialism and voting as a monolithic cult, instead of as individuals, has led many Black folks to adapt and protect actual systems of oppression, from abortion, the healthcare system, minimum wage, the economic system, to protecting criminality, the prison system, to using racial epithets coined by white racists against other Black people who have a different worldview. Black folks and Americans of all backgrounds have been sold on the concept that the way to freedom is bigger government, no accountability, monolithic thinking, and a lack of self control. I would argue that the overwhelming majority of Black Americans have more access to resources to create generational wealth today than at any point in our nation's history. And it all begins with our mobile devices. The information we can find and utilize through these devices is vast and damn near limitless. But we have
45
to
seconds.
be proactive, disciplined, and abandon the tropes of emotionalism, materialism, and historical hurts. There are many Black Americans with a great work ethic, ambition, goals, but let's face it, we need to do better. And that better begins with us, not the external. No white man is going to sweep into town and declare that you're worth it. You have complete autonomy over your life. We have been
15
conditioned
seconds.
to do a lot of settling for scraps when it comes to the government, corporate America, entrepreneurship, our ignorance of civics, lack of understanding of the Constitution, ignorance of how money works, and holding on to folklore that no longer serves us. So until we acknowledge the actual systems that are causing massive stagnation in this nation, there will be very little change from the residual effects of historical hurts so many
All
Blacks
right,
left.
time's up.
Wait, what's happening with the mics? What's
Yeah,
happening with the
your
mics?
AJ, your
You're
mic is
on. You're
horrible.
on.
Why was I muted?
Because you went over
When did I
time.
mute?
I muted you. You went over time.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, your mic is
Now nobody
not.
can hear
It's
me.
not coming
Can
in
you hear
good.
me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Can you guys hear me? Because I was trying to talk while he was talking.
Yeah, I heard what he said. It was just a little choppy.
Yeah,
Yes,
But
I
I
heard what
definitely
he
heard
said
everything.
too.
but can you hear me though? Because when he was talking and I was trying to interfere, you guys couldn't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
If he wants to restate it, he can.
AJ, you have bars though. Do you guys? Oh, now he doesn't. His bars are
No, he
taken.
doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a
So,
there's a
hey,
there's a there's a storm, so it's probably knocking the Wi-Fi out. But what how much of it did you hear? Because I don't
I
know
heard
what
all of it.
okay.
I heard pretty
And
much all of
Yeah,
it as well.
that and that's
yeah. There were some parts that were a little choppy, but you could tell what you were saying. You could still understand it. You just had to listen a little closer.
okay.
All right. Um. So now we go. T-Bone, you have 5 minutes to rebut. Now,
Okay, so the idea that systemic racism still exists is a complete contradiction to me because if systemic racism exists, then my claim is pretty much proven, right? Because if systemic racism exists, the whole point of this is to affect that said group. The second thing that he talked about was the work ethic, right? So the work ethic, there's absolutely no data that I have seen, unless AJ is going to substantiate this, that black people have a low work ethic. That is absolutely absurd. So again, this is based off of him stating that we have all these different vices to us that can get us this wealth to get us out of these situations. Now, at no point in time am I ever saying that we did not come from a generation of people who were amazing at getting through the situations that and the barriers that were put in front of them. But what I am saying is that they ought not go through those barriers in the first place. So the whole point of that barrier being there means that it affects them moving through their life. And I can show you through these set numbers. So when we're taking a look here, and my first claim is going to be that poverty is indicative of crime. You can see this all throughout the world. And they break it down by each different version. So the total, as you can see here, right, when we're taking a look at how many people are poor, it is going to be indicative of crime because each year that the poverty is decreasing around the world, there's going to be less crime that is taking place. And what we also know is that Black people are more likely to be in poverty versus white people. Give me just a second. So this data point right here is going to show you that white people are sitting at a 44% rate of poverty, but are 58% of the population. So when we're sitting in poverty at 20% compared to 13.5%, you would then ask the question of why we have so many issues within our society as it pertains to black people sitting in federal prison. Which even goes to the point because if we're taking a look at this data as well, we're not even committing crimes at the same rate. And I've actually done the numbers to show this as well. So if AJ is going to continue to be like a dickhead, like You know what I mean? Like every time we got to pause for that shit.
I pause the time every time that comes through. So you still go.
Cool beans. So when we're taking a look at the rate of people that are in prison, for example, and when we're taking a look at crime, we can actually see that white people are committing these crimes at a 70% rate compared to black people at 26% rate. So this actual, and by the way, this is 44% difference compared to the 20% difference, right? Because we're sitting in poverty at a 20% rate. That means we have a 6% overall difference compared to white people at 26%. So clearly it's not indicative of our choices because we're not more violent even though we're in poverty more. So none of this is going to make any type of sense. Sorry, pulling up this next data point. So when we're taking a look at the avenues and how we can create wealth in this generational wealth for the black community, there's three different ways that I've comprised that we can do this. Number one is going to be through stocks. The other is going to be through businesses, and the other is going to be through real estate. When we take a look at how much we are represented as it pertains to this is kind of blurry. Ignore my cat. As it pertains to how many businesses we own, we are sitting at a 2.8%. Not to mention the fact that at revenues, we are at a 1.1% rate. And white people have a positivity when they are at an 85% rate, going into revenues at 92.5%. So when we're not having these businesses, we're not able to continue to flourish at the same rate as white people. When we take a look at stocks, we can see that white people are at a 66% compared to black people at a 39%. So if we're
One
not
minute
investing
left.
in the stock market at the same rate, how are we supposed to create generational wealth? And when we're taking a look at the real estate, we can see that of white people, 72.7% of them have home ownership compared to black Americans sitting at 44%. So again, based off of what you're stating, and even though you're sitting here saying that systemic racism exists, that means absolutely nothing because it's predicated on us making these choices. So what
30
I'm going to ask you
seconds.
to substantiate or give me a reason as to why black individuals are inherently stupid by making decisions, by not investing in the stock market, by not owning businesses, and by not participating in real estate so that they can build generational wealth for their family.
10 seconds. All right, AJ, you got 5 minutes. Start
All
it.
right, all right. Stats are great, and I love stats, but reality is reality. What I heard was a bunch of excuses for poor choices. You are making these choices. No one's forcing you to blow your money. No one's forcing you to continue to be financially ignorant. Those are choices you're making. And for the record, I never said that black people have a bad work ethic or that they're lazy. And I never said, and if you heard what I said in terms of the context of systemic racism, I pointed out that y'all are the problem. I never said that the systems were the problem. Y'all participating in systems you know affect you is the problem. So you can battle rap as many stats as you want, make as many per capita arguments as you want. But what I'm actually going to need from you is the source that you read from. I'm also going to need how many actual white people are under the poverty line in this nation, and how many actual black people are under the poverty line in this nation. And then we can start working from there. But a per capita argument isn't going to work here. That's weak. The reality of the situation is if you don't take accountability for your actions, for the steps in your life, when you have the world at your fingertips, there isn't a stat you can tell me that will make me believe that we are so destitute and stupid and ill-informed and under these systems that are just holding us back that we can't figure out. We can figure it out. We figured it out at a time in this nation when we were literally cold animals. We were literally hosed down. So I'm not buying arguments of emotionalism and traumas and dramas because that's a whole bunch of hogwash. But what you left out of your argument is the abortion rate in the black community. Because if you actually look back to the civil rights leaders in 1973, they were staunchly against Roe v. Wade. Jesse Jackson called it murder. Lou Hamer against it. Whitney Young, absolutely not. She called it genocide. So when you're sitting here talking about making all of these excuses for why black folks can't, when they actually can, when you can actually, any one of us could do a Google search right now, how to invest in stocks. What system is going to sweep into town and snatch your MacBook away? None of them. Nobody's going to come into town and say, hey, we heard you're investing. Let's take that from you. So no, black folks aren't dumb. They aren't lazy. They aren't stupid. And that's not black folks in bulk. That's just a few black folks who are willfully ignorant, who literally participate in their own genocide, and they come back on the other end and want to talk to me about statistics. If you don't want to be a statistic, don't participate in the in the stuff that will make you one. That is the purpose here. So I'm not interested in 5%, 10%, 20%, 40%. I'm interested in reality, living in the real world, actually observing and making firm decisions for your bloodline. That's what I'm interested in. We can sit here all day and talk numbers. I'm not interested in numbers. I'm interested in results. So if you want to change these results, it starts with you. It starts with you taking accountability for your bloodline and shifting the things and breaking generational curses and things that did not work. So if you're not committed to that, you're never going to shift. You can complain about the government all day, but this is also the same person that's going to ask the government for reparations. The same government that is hovering over you and stopping you from living your life. That makes absolutely no sense, and I yield my time.
All right.
This is another 5 minute MJ.
All right. So now we go to the 3 minute closing on each one. So each of you have 3 minutes. Tbone, starting with you, starting now.
Okay, great. So just in this closing, I just want to point out that this man obfuscated to talking about abortion. Even if I entertain, I don't think this matters in the debate, but let's entertain this. This is why per capita matters, because it's going based off of the population, the people who are actually here on this earth. So we're talking about the representation of how many black people are here. The abortion topic has nothing to do with anything, because even if we create more black people, they're still going to be experiencing the exact same barriers that you're talking about. So at the end of the day, none of that matters. I don't care about your motivational speech, because you're sitting here talking about operating in reality when I'm literally giving you sources and data. And if you want to attack this data, we can do so. And I can show you where we got these from. But you starting out your argument with stating that systemic racism exists proves the point, null and void, that black people are still experiencing some effects from systemic racism. Whether we can get over those barriers or not is a completely different conversation. And I want to say this again. The question that was asked was not, what can we do as black people to overcome the barriers of systemic racism that affect us? The question was, does it still affect black Americans today? So even with your own point in your opening argument, you shot yourself in the foot. You have no idea what you're talking about. And this is why I hate debating you conservatives. If you want to go through these numbers, we can. But the reason that you don't want to operate in these numbers is because realistically, AJ, you don't want to operate in facts. This has turned into a bad faith conversation. Everything that I have given you has been from data and sources. And you have given me a motivational speech on how we can get over those barriers that you literally admitted are affecting black people. I yield my time. Let's go to.
Yeah. So, I'm
AJ, you
sorry.
got
I'm
3.
sorry.
I'm sorry. No, you're good. You got 3 minutes starting now.
So yeah, so when you don't listen to comprehend, I'm not interested in that. If you want to, whatever you decide you want to hear, that's fine. But I'll end with this. There isn't a black conservative dead or alive who orchestrated drive-by shootings, glorified street gangs, burned down their own communities to protest the death of career thugs, protected criminals in their own neighborhoods by enacting a no-snitch culture. Black conservatives didn't rebrand black-on-black crime to proximity crimes to relieve degenerates amongst us of accountability. We aren't actively promoting sexual perversion, which is a sleigh ride to a lifelong dependency on the healthcare industry. And also, the multi-billion-dollar abortion industry. No black conservative is selling young black kids their own oppression. No black conservative is using the color of their skin as a handicap or as an excuse to not try. Black conservatives aren't looking for government handouts or passing down the oppressive ceiling of government subsidized housing. We are not passing down inferiority complexes. Black conservatives aren't caping for other people's genocide by advocating for their own people's genocide, by advocating for the mass execution of black babies in the womb. We are deducting black people. We aren't deducing black people and the black American experience to angst, sub-English vernacular, and professional victimhood. I wonder if my opponent has a peer-reviewed study on whether black conservatives have been just as impactful as the things that I just listed. So yeah, you can say all the things you want, but you can try to stick to this poverty argument, but I'm not interested in your excuses on poverty. I'm interested in the solutions on poverty. So we could battle rap against stats all day, but that does not mean you are solutionary. You are not solutionary, you are performative. And I'm not interested in your performance. I'm interested in your solutions. So if you don't have any solutions, that is not my problem. But yes, and if you want to talk about per capita and why per capita is important, you know why per
1
capita is
minute.
important? Because it's never important when it comes to abortion. Why per capita during abortion never comes? Yeah, we gotta talk about that. Right. Per capita never comes into play when it comes to other subjects. But y'all run with that per capita argument when you need to play victim. I'm not running with your victim argument. So you can do whatever you want with it. I'm not interested. I yield my time.
30 seconds.
I yield my time.
All right.
So we're going into reparations.
Yeah, we're going into question number 2. AJ, you will lead on this. You will answer first. Should black Americans who are descendants of slaves receive reparations? AJ, you've got 3 minutes starting now.
No. Reparations. The making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. As a black American and a descendant of slaves, the word reparations has been a part of our vocabulary since I was a child. It was ingrained in me that the U.S. government owed us financial reparations and or 40 acres and a mule. But when you unpack the folklore, one will see that Africans sold Africans to Europeans and Arab people. And what we should really aspire to is restitution from the owners that hold the insurance policies on each slave. I asked my debate partner about reparations the other day. I wanted to know if he supported financial reparations. He said no, he wanted reparations in forms of buildings and other things in the community. My follow-up was, where are you going to get the financing? And he said, the government. The government. The government. It doesn't take a genius to see that one looks to the government to subsidize their lives. It comes with a myriad of rules, limitations, and a quality of life that does not support individualism, financial prosperity, or autonomy over one's life. Prime examples are the welfare state, Section 8 housing, the housing projects, government-funded healthcare, the Department of Education, and redlining. All of these things have subsequently failed the Black community, yet we continue to participate in it. The first recorded case of reparations for slavery in the United States was a former slave named Brenda Royal in 1783 in the form of a pension. And since then, reparations continues to be proposed, most recently with Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas, who in her HR 40 commission to study the development of reparations proposal for African Americans Act hasn't met since the year 2019. So this is how you
1
know
minute.
it's large. These largely performative gestures prove that the federal government has no interest in reparations for descendants of slaves. So we can go back to begging the very thing that we claim is the issue to solve the issue, or we can be empowered through the access we have today and move forward that way. But passing this on to another generation of people, believing that this victimhood mentality and that the government is somehow going to raise you up out of poverty when the government's job at this point is to keep
20
you as
seconds.
oppressed as possible. And I yield my time.
All right, T-Bone, you've got 3 minutes starting now.
Yes, the answer to your question is yes. We definitely need to pay reparations to Black people who are descendants of slaves. So the definition of reparations is going to be making amends for a wrong that one has done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. If you're going to tell me that slavery in and of itself was not wrong, I'm going to look at you like you are a buffoon. Slavery was absolutely wrong. The same way that what took place in Germany was absolutely wrong. The same way that what we did to Japanese people was absolutely wrong. Yet we can see a consistency where reparations are being paid in one sitting, but not the other. And so, in this portion of the debate, once we get to the questions, obviously, I am going to be asking that you give me the symmetry breaker. Going back to one of the points, and I'm going to alter my opening here because something was misconstrued here. The question that is being asked is should we, which is a moral claim. So I am arguing from the moral sense of ought we pay reparations for the wrongdoings that we have admitted as a country was absolutely wrong. I am not arguing how we get the job done. I could care less if it was the government. I could care less if the government went to tax the Vatican, who started the transatlantic slave trade. I'll even throw you a bone and say that we can go to Africa and tax them for the wrongdoings that they did in selling us slaves. The point being is that a wrong was done and that there has never been a right that has been made from that wrongdoing. And going back to the previous point that I was making, which AJ just so happened to say existed for some reason, systemic racism is the reason that we're living in the situations that we're in. With every data point that I have shown you, with more to come after we get done with this portion, you will see that Black and brown people have been affected by not
One
being
minute.
given reparations. So I don't care how we get these reparations. It could be the government. It could be any way that we can get these reparations. Our communities are struggling, and they are struggling at a huge disproportionate rate when it comes to wealth, when it comes to our access to resources. And the only way that we fix this is by reparations. Sorry,
All right. AJ, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. I never said slavery was wrong. I never said it was. Never said that. Why would I say that? That's ridiculous, right? But again, this is the listening to comprehend part. When you don't listen to comprehend, you hear what you want to hear, versus listening to what the person's actually saying to you. Now, understand, I might be a little over articulate for some people, and that's fine. But you were never a slave. You were never a slave. You can't yield on that excuse in 2024. Sorry to break the news to you. But the reparations aren't coming. The government's never going to sweep you into um, generational wealth and declare that you're amazing. It's just never going to happen. So if you know that's never going to happen, why would you pass that down to another generation? And let's be clear. There have been some things the government has tried to do to sort of atone, if you will. But again, in 2024, we have outdated affirmative action programs that need to be updated with the times. Because the problem with programs like affirmative action, the HBCUs, and grants that are specifically given to Black business owners is that they don't update with the times as people progress and as people become more financially dependent. Now, I'm sure, and I should have looked this up and I didn't, but if you really want to get down to what it is, it's about financial literacy. It's about budgeting. It's about knowing how money works. And when you are unclear on all those things, I am going to say that it's going to be hard pressed to believe that a check is going to write a financially irresponsible person out of poverty. I wish I also looked up the rates on lottery winners and how many of them actually go broke after they win the lottery. So there is no check you could throw at it. And I thought you didn't want financial reparations. So I'm a little confused on that one as well. But the government has done enough to atone. It is now our turn to take responsibility for our lives, to take accountability. Because all of these excuses, I am done with them. I am bored of them. I am not interested in participating. So you could read as many studies as you want. You can go to as many support groups as you need to go to, but I will never buy into the theory that we cannot figure it out. There is no big bad boogeyman waiting around the corner, stopping you from living your life. Go live your life. And I yield my time.
All right. T-Bone, you have 5 minutes.
Just want to point out before we even get started into this, conservatives are the ones that say that they care about facts over feelings. Yet I give facts and you respond with your feelings. What this man said is, I am done feeling this, that, and the third. We are in a debate, AJ. I could care less what your feelings are as it pertains to the argument. Again, the question was asked, ought they? This is not about your feelings. This is a moral claim on whether they should be getting reparations. Now, you acknowledging that America has done a wrong, which is slavery, right? Reparations is the making amends of the wrong that one has done, meeting the definition of reparations. Again, you're arguing against yourself, and it's looking terrible. You sitting here saying that we are financially illiterate is absolutely absurd because we don't have the finances to invest at the same rate, which I have substantiated with my claim before. So we need to be fixing the wrongdoings, absolutely. Going into the second point, as it pertains to the whole reparations situation, the reason that I responded to say that reparations should be paid to black people is a completely different setting, because we're talking about reparations in the sense of descendants of slaves, which, by the way, is the question that you all wanted me to answer, and then the reparations that should have been paid for the wrongdoing for all black people. Because let's just be clear, black people did not just experience discrimination during slavery. We also experienced during Jim Crow. We also experienced it during the 94 crime bill. Slavery was just a setup for all of this. This caste system that they operated under to put us in these situations where we are working labor and not being compensated for that said labor, which is the wrongdoing, is the reason why we're in the situations that we're in today. Again, I'm not telling you how I feel about this situation. I'm giving you the data on why we are at 23.5% of economic wealth in our society compared to our white counterparts. And it is because we have not done the right of fixing the wrongs that slavery has caused. Now, if you want to go and claim those insurance policies that these banks had on slaves, all power to you. And I'm fine with getting reparations that way or restitution. None of that matters. But what we will do is fix the wrongdoing. And as it pertains to this idea of, oh, us needing to trust the government and this, I could care less, right? We are going to put our foot down because let's be clear. If the government wants to do something, they will fucking do it. And we can do everything in our power if we feel that our government is not doing what we want them to do to force them to do it. I don't care about laws because laws didn't matter in the Nuremberg trial because the Nuremberg trial stopped because the SMATSI officers were stating you cannot hold us accountable because all we were doing was following the law that was set. Everything stopped. And the follow-up to this was that someone had to come in and present the moral claim, i.e. moral claim, that there is a law above the law, holding those said officers accountable so that we can execute them and fix the wrongdoings that were started from World War II. So I'm going to say it again. Reparations ought be paid to the descendants of slaves, period.
All right. AJ, you've got 3 minutes for closing. I'll start when you go. AJ, you're muted. AJ, you there?
Mr. AJ?
check, check. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. Are you good?
I think it's lagging. Hold on, hold on.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Well, I think I'm lagging because y'all are mad delayed in responding to me. But anyway, um, I lost the whole whatever he said. I didn't hear any of it. It was just breaking up. But I would like to point out that Black Americans have one point. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. I started your time when you started. I'm paused
You might
now,
have to
so
drop and come
Okay,
back to say.
sorry, sorry.
yeah, you've got 3 minutes. So I mean, you're 4 seconds into it. I'm gonna reset it, and I'm just gonna give you 3 minutes starting whenever you start. Neither one of you have bars going right now, so I think both of you are clear. So when you start talking is when I'm gonna start the clock, and I'll give you a warning when we get to 1 minute, and then I'll give you another at 30 seconds.
All right, so maybe my opponent can explain to me how Black Americans have $1.6 trillion in spending power, yet they lag in financial wellness, literacy, and wellness, yeah, those are choices. If you have that much capital to spend in the market and you're not spending it amongst your own people, and you know you don't own your communities, that's on you. So no, reparations is not the solution. Reparations, you are not a slave. So again, I comprehend the point of it. I don't know if this is working or not, but um, um, I understand the point of people. I'm gonna drop and come back. I think it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause. You're cutting in and out,
Okay, hold on.
so yeah, just drop and come back. Host,
If
everybody in
you
the
want to, you
comments
can
saying
just
reset your
restart when he
goal.
comes back.
Okay, you go with that, T-Bone?
Yeah, I was saying, well, I was the one who said that when he comes back, you just reset the time.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I was just making sure that I heard you
Can
correctly.
he? Oh wait, I have to fix the guest request
Yeah,
because he
yeah.
can't request. He can't request up, right? For more guests, allow. Okay, so I've got the guest request on. Sports.
T-Bone, you have bars too if you want to drop and come back up also while he's doing it. I mean, you're clear now, but well, shit. I guess we'll take this time. Everybody, if you would, gift the host, gift the two participants. Do not gift me. I'm just doing this out of the kindness of my heart.
I,
Um,
oh, they're in the queue.
yeah.
Why is this guy here? Good luck, you guys.
All right.
My
So, AJ, T-Bone said that he was willing to reset the time for you on your 3 minute closing. So, if you want to, you can start over. And yeah, are you good with that? Because you did cut in and out some.
okay, no problem. Can you hear me now? Check, check, check,
Yeah,
check, check, check. All
absolutely.
right, cool, cool,
Crystal
cool.
clear. So, whenever you
All right,
start, I'll start.
all right. So I find it hard to believe that a group of people that has $1.6 trillion in spending power yet lags in all the other financial categories is because of someone else's doing. When you make choices with your money that don't empower you, you get the results you get. So again, reparations in the form of monetary is not going to help the problem. Because if you actually look at how people people. Oh, damn it. Whatever. Okay. This is so annoying.
Everything good? Are you guys good?
I'm good. I think AJ is messing up a little bit, but we can hear you still, AJ. You didn't cut out.
AJ,
Reset my router.
Did your power go out?
Check, 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 check,
Yeah,
check.
we hear you. You're clear.
Okay, good. No, my power didn't go out. I don't know. The Wi-Fi is just not Wi-Fiing right now, which it never done. But there are storms, and if you're in Texas, you know I'm telling the truth. Anyway, um, I, I'm not going to say it again, but a group with 1.6 trillion dollars in spending power should be more financially should be higher on the financial food chain right now. So that's clearly choices made from within. And when you're not spending within your own communities, in the same communities that you don't own, guess what? You're not going to grow in net worth. And so it's not a problem of slavery, it's a problem of accountability. And so until you fire the government and own the property in your neighborhoods, you will not see the financial rewards that you claim you want. And I yield my time.
All right, good deal. Um, T-Bone,
All
three
right.
minute
I think
closing.
I was. Yeah. Sorry about that. Let me hold on. Let me turn my camera on, and then all right, we're good.
I'm gonna start when you start. Okay. So you got
Cool
three
beans.
minutes.
Yeah. So really quick. Yeah. So really quick. Numbers do not lie. They don't lie. Now they don't tell the whole truth, but they don't lie. So if we're making claims that the black spending power is 1.2 trillion dollars, I'm going to have to question where that money is coming from. I'm not denying your numbers, just like I'm not going to deny my numbers that says that of all buying power, we sit at 4%. Now, here's the problem again. I don't care about motivational speeches. I don't care about you saying that we can get over those barriers. What I'm simply here to do is show you that these barriers exist. So if you're going to sit here and say that $1.6 trillion dollars of spending power, I want to know where that money is coming from. Because as it pertains to every other demographic, when you look at cars, when you look at shoes, when you look at clothing, when you look at food, we are not spending as it pertains to the data. We are not consuming at this rate. So if we have 1.6 billion, a trillion dollars that we are spending, I want to know where that money is going because it's not in the household. It's not in the wealth. Again, and by the way, this has nothing to do with the argument. I just want to point out that the question that was
Can
being
I
asked was, ought we do this said thing? Ought we? I'm sorry. I thought you were saying something. Ought we give the descendants of slaves reparations for the atrocities that their ancestors went through? And as I'm showing you right here, this is from the actual act, by the way. We did this with Japan. This clause right here is actually outlining how descendants of Japanese people that were in internment camps, if they were deceased, their nearest living relative would get reparations. This would be, i.e., the spouse. This would be the children. This would be the stepchildren. This would be the parents. The list goes on and on and on. And this is within the clause. So not only is this showing that America has done what you are saying that we shouldn't do, but they've also done it in the exact same way where you were stating, oh, well, in 2024, they shouldn't be getting reparations. Absolutely, because right here, as it shows, when those descendants have passed on, our government has shown that they will give that money to the descendants of the slaves. So at this point, my argument is still going to be I'll even take it from the financial standpoint. Because again, as I said before, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Our government has shown that when they
One
want to
minute.
do these things, they will do these things. So at the end of the day, reparations do need to be paid because we acknowledge the definition and we acknowledge that it is a wrongdoing. I'm going to yield my time.
Uh, can I do a quick response, right quick, just really quick, just real quick, just real.
No, I'm
Okay,
sorry, but I will allow you in the 10 minute block. You definitely have the opportunity to address whatever you wanted to address. Is that
got it.
cool? All right. All right. So now we're going to go to the next question. T-Bone, you're up on this one. You answer first. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes, and I'm gonna start the clock when you start talking. Question is Donald Trump anti-black?
Absolutely, and also anti-black would be equal to racist, right? So I also feel that he is a racist. When we take a look at the things that Donald Trump has done, this is going to be pre-presidency, just to clarify. Um, Plenty of actions that we can look at. We can take a look at the hotel situation, or I'm sorry, not the hotel situation, the casino situation, where he was removing black people from the floor whenever white people would come in. We could take a look at the housing situation, which people love to obfuscate him of responsibility because technically it wasn't Trump, but Trump was involved in this because it was Trump management. We can also take a look at my favorite, the Central Park Five. And the Central Park Five is where he stated that he wanted to call for the unaliving of five boys, who then later were shown to be exonerated or vacated of their crimes, being innocent, and took out an ad for the calling of the unaliving of these said boys. Donald Trump has said so many crazy, remarkable things, and it just so happens that it's affecting the black and brown community. When we take a look at the housing discrimination, who is that affecting? The black and brown community. When we take a look at the casino situation, who were being brought off of the force? The black and brown community. When we take a look at the ad that he took out about the Central Park Five, who were the boys that he was calling for the unaliving of? Black and brown people. So the question is Trump anti-black? Absolutely, you bet your sweet ass he's anti-black and racist than a motherfucker. And once I go in depth with these articles, we'll be able to prove that claim, and we'll probably have to do that within the 10-minute setting. But I'm going to yield my time with that.
All right, AJ, same question. Is Donald Trump anti-black?
Tone isn't anti-black. Honesty isn't anti-black. Being a white man with a difference of opinion isn't anti-black. But protecting criminality is in fact anti-black and anti-progress. Attaching historical hurts, as of that of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy who was lynched in Money, Mississippi for allegedly catcalling a white woman in August 1955, that's an injustice. But when you take that injustice and attach it to a criminal like George Floyd, then we have a problem because it is not the same scenario. So, yes, people have the right to have an opinion you don't like, but that does not mean it's anti blackness. But when you compare a criminal like George Floyd to Emmett Till, that is in fact anti blackness. There is no correlation to the pain and suffering of my ancestors who were not professional criminals and the 21st century caping that y'all do for criminals. Now, let's be clear, our criminal justice system is not perfect. Absolutely not. It is not. Men and women of all races have been tried and convicted of crimes they did not commit, but this isn't a conversation about that. This is a conversation about Trump, a man who many have been manipulated into believing has led a life and career steeped in anti-blackness, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Trump has been more pro-black than some of these black leaders, from funding Jesse Jackson's 2 failed presidential runs to business loans to even helping Jennifer Hudson. So that ridiculous 1972 lawsuit, I'll go into the details in my response. But from that to the Central Park Five, there have been many smear campaigns void of context against the 45th president of the United States. Now, is Mr. Trump perfect? No. Do I agree with every stance and policy? Absolutely not. Have I found myself yelling at the television during some of his presidential debates? Absolutely, because there's some things he should have said in certain moments. But an avowed racist, I mean, if this man is such an avowed racist,
1 minute.
thank you. Why were black political leaders, community leaders, celebrities, and entrepreneurs in his good graces for over 4 decades? Over 4 decades of socializing, supporting black businesses, etc., etc. And I yield my time.
All right. T-Bone, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, so this idea that Donald Trump isn't racist because he did a couple of things for black people is absolutely asinine. And I know that was his opening argument, but I would love to see how he's going to combat the things that he has said and done towards black individuals. And I have the sources here, but we'll get into that into the 10-minute situation. Point being, we can take a look at other people like Donald Sterling who have done things for black people. He's employed black people when he was the owner of the LA Clippers and did so many other things for the black community as it pertains to the children in LA. He also was a racist son of a bitch. In a recording that we have, which we have all seen, where he was telling the woman that he was with to not bring black people to his games. Do you know something that he has in common with Donald Trump? He was also sued over discrimination, trying to use the same idea of, oh, it wasn't discrimination, it was the Section 8 situation, and that's what we were trying to keep out. All of these excuses are the problems that we come up with. And I'm going to ask AJ about this when we get to the 10-minute portion. Racism cannot be proven in any way, shape, or form unless a person gives the express intent on their actions. So before Donald Sterling stated whatever he stated about black people, was he racist? Absolutely, he was. We just didn't have any evidence or proof behind this because he didn't tell us what his expressed intent was towards the black community. So just because Donald Trump has done a good job of not saying in particular things to solidify this for you, AJ, means absolutely nothing to me, because his actions, when he's saying that he doesn't want black people to count his money, he'll leave that to Jewish people, shows me that Trump is absolutely racist and anti-black. And when we're talking about anti-blackness, we're talking about things that would be detrimental to the black community or opposed to the black community. So when you make a comment stating that you do not want black people counting your money, insinuating that you don't think that they're good at counting their money, that's anti-black. When you are discriminating, Bell, I don't know if you noticed, but you are on pause. I don't want the live to go down. So please come back.
I'm
When
not
you were
on
sitting here
pause.
stating that black people, it says on my screen that you're paused. I don't know
No,
if it
I'm not
says it
on
for
pause.
anybody else.
MJ, am I on pause?
Okay.
Yes, it's showing that you're on pause.
What? What about now? No, people
It's
in the
okay.
comments say
Yeah, you're
she's
good now. Sorry
not.
about that.
You're good now. All right, I'm gonna give you a few
Okay,
extra
it was like
seconds if
that
you
on my
need it,
screen.
but you're at 2 minutes
No,
and
no,
20
you're
seconds.
good. What was my time left?
Yeah, you've got.
Okay, cool
Yeah,
beans.
go ahead.
So when you are discriminating, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh,
You're
okay.
good.
So
Go
when
ahead.
you are discriminating against black people, I'm sorry, when you're discriminating as it pertains to Section 8 housing, so to speak, but you are putting C on the application, and it just so happens that that is affecting black people, that is anti-black. So looking at the actions of Donald Trump in his past and what he has done to black people is 1000% not only anti-black, but racist as hell. Now, am I going to sit here and say that Joe Biden is not a racist? Absolutely not. That would be absurd of me. I know what racism is and how it operates. And I know that Joe Biden has definitely done racist things, and I believe him to be a racist. Do we have the evidence for this? Absolutely. But just because he, in and of himself, is racist does not mean necessarily that Donald Trump is not racist. You then look back to say, well, the black community was supporting him. Did you also know that he was a Democrat back in the day? He was saying things as long as or as far as the lines of saying that the economy works better under Democrats. So absolutely, we took him under his wing. The same way that we did the same thing to Joe Biden in 2024, and why most black people, based off of the data, will be casting their ballot for him. because he is doing things as it pertains to policies and politics that will help the black and brown community as a whole. We understand the racism, and there's plenty of racism within politics. Most of our officials are racist. We understand this to be true. But what we are going to do is cast our ballot to mitigate damage to our society. Point blank, period.
All right. So, AJ, you now have 5 minutes.
All right. So, if you've ever been in the presence of rich people, you know that they get sued for everything. They're literally walking magnets for lawsuits. No matter who they are, no matter what race they are, no matter what they do in life, no matter how good or bad a person people think they are, there's always somebody who can find a way to sue them. So they literally keep lawyers on retainer for that. But let's talk about the 1972 lawsuit. I remember, if I can recall correctly, hold on, let me grab this right quick. So it was the United States versus Fred C. Trump, Donald Trump, and the Trump Management Corporation. Now, from what I can recall from that suit, the people who sued alleged that they were being discriminated against, that the unit was not vacant, but the unit actually was being rented. Also, they said this narrative that Trump does not rent to blacks, when in fact, it was proven in that case that 13 to 14% of his tenants were black and Latino. So it wasn't a race thing. And so when you had two disgruntled employees come forward and literally lie, which has invalidated the lawsuit. So therefore, Trump and his father countersued for defamation. So once they sued for defamation, this ended up in litigation for over 3 years. It's a very costly thing. And so they each agreed to drop their suits. First, because you can't prove it because you put two liars up who you can't even vouch for that anymore. And since the bar of a burden of proof is lower when it's not a criminal, there's an issue with that. But only stipulation to drop the case was that Trump had to take out an ad saying that he rents to blacks and Latinos, even though it was already proven that he had black and Latino tenants, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, in terms of the Central Park Five, the Central Park Five were guilty. Did a whole deep dive on it, did a whole bunch of research. I have a 10-minute video at the top of my page on as much of the facts and evidence of the case that mattered, right? So 200,000 case files I tried to condense down into 10 minutes, literally proven. And you said that the case was vacated. Yes, vacated is not exonerated. So when media runs with exonerated, when you're actually been vacated means you can be retried. Why were they not retried? Because they had already served their sentences. If they were exonerated, it would be expunged from the record. If you do a background check on any of those five people, you will find that still on their record. Why? Because it was never expunged. They're not going to throw that away. What it is. Believe whatever you want. Now, in terms of the ad he took out for the Central Park Five, I can't read the whole thing because I don't have enough time, but I would like to read one critical paragraph. First, he never said he wanted them to die. He said if they did it. Okay, cool. But this second paragraph really gets me. So it says, many New York families, white, black, Hispanic, and Asian, have had to give up the pleasure of leisurely strolling through Central Park at dusk. The Saturday visit to the playground with their families, the bike rides at dawn, or just sitting on their stoops, giving them up as hostages to a world ruled by the law of the streets, as roving bands of wild criminals roam our neighborhoods. There was not one lie told in that moment and not one lie told in this entire ad that he took out. He never mentioned race. The only time he mentioned race was when he mentioned the diversity of the city. So if your idea of a criminal is black, that says more about you than it does about him. But you can say whatever you want, believe whatever you want, feel however you want to feel. But Donald Trump is not the guy that the media has made him out to be. And yes, you should question your leaders who continued to hang out with him, because regardless of Democrat, there were Republicans in those social circles too. So please, it's not a Democrat-Republican thing. We're socializing with Donald Trump thing. So if this person is a rabid racist and all of these crazy things, that should have been called out decades ago. While Al Sharpton was marching his fat
1 minute.
behind up and down New York, that should That was the time to say, hey, we don't mess with Donald Trump. As a leader, as a pillar in the community, this is not a good man. But when did he become a bad man? When they had no longer had access to his money. That's when he became a bad person. So cut the cap. You can believe whatever you want and you can read whatever you want, but I know what I know. And as a New Yorker, that ad was facts, and the results of the 1972 case was all facts. So vacated and exonerated is not the same thing, and I
10
yield my time.
seconds. Thank you. All right, T-Bone, you've got 3 minutes.
It's closing, right?
Yes.
All right, cool beans. I want to. I just want to take my last 3 minutes to read a couple of tweets from Donald Trump. In 1990, Trump took out advertisement alleging Mohawk Indians' record of criminal activity is well documented. It is hilarious. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. All right, go ahead. It just so happens that at the time he was fighting for competition with his casino business. I mean, the list goes on and on of things that he said. I mean, we could take a look at in 1993, the radio interview where he said that he thinks he has more Indian blood than the so-called Indians. How he mocked Navajo veterans at World War II, insinuating that Senator Elizabeth Warren was Pocahontas. This man is anti-black. He's racist as hell. There's nothing else that needs to be said about this. But with that being said, I'm gonna go to this Central Park 5 situation where he says that he wasn't talking about those 5 boys. Dang. So in this interview with Larry King, we don't even have to go to his presidency where he literally stated who it was about, but literally in this interview with Larry King, he states, I am not prejudging the 5 teens, but rather advocating for their execution if they were found guilty. So yes, he was talking about the Central Park 5. He was talking about those black young boys, and yes, he was absolutely prejudging them. This is
If,
absolutely absurd to think that he was.
if,
Now, once we go to hold on, I'm not done yet. I'm not
if,
done yet. Now, once we go to the idea of vacated, we have to understand why it was vacated. And the reason why it was vacated is because the charges were about the woman that was being raped. Now, we can get into the intricacies of that, and you will also lose that debate. I advise you to just take your L like a man and not go into that case because I have also looked at 20 plus hours of that case. There was no evidence that those boys were guilty at all. We can take a look at how there was no DNA that was tied to them.
oh my
But at the end of the day,
God.
look, at the end of the day, we're not here to talk about that case, right? We're here to talk about Trump's racism and his anti-blackness. And what I have shown you is that the article was about those 5 boys. He's made statements about black people. He has removed black people from the casino floor, and he has discriminated against those same black people from getting housing. The same way that Donald Sterling did it, the same
1
person
minute.
that we call a racist. And somehow you are absolving this man of racism and anti-blackness. It's absolutely absurd. If we hold this philosophy for Donald Sterling, then goddamn it, we need to do the same thing for Donald Trump. There is absolutely no reason that we shouldn't. And if you can give me a symmetry breaker as to why we shouldn't, I might be able to hear you out on that.
You got 30 seconds, T-Bone.
Sorry, I yield my time.
All right, AJ, you've got 3 minutes.
All right. So if they were found guilty, he was advocating for the death penalty. And if you looked at the actual case files, you would know in those 200,000 plus pages, was plenty of evidence, circumstantial and physical. You would also know that in 1989, DNA was a new technology. There was blood spatter on their shoes, but the testing was so new that they could not, with the little bit of blood that they found, could not test it. But the soil, pubic hair from the victim, mentioning the victim before the police knew there was a victim. So if you looked at everything like you claim you did, you would know that those boys were there and they were guilty. 5 boys that were apprehended coming out of the park after over 20 plus police calls to the park. Those 5 boys, one being Kevin Richardson. Kevin Richardson gave up the jogger. The police were looking for people who assaulted the homeless man, Anthony Diaz, and whoever was menacing in the park. They did not know there was a jogger at that time. So cut the cap. You did not look into this case the way you say you did. For if you did, you read it for what you wanted to hear. Ain't my problem. But to sit here and say that Elizabeth Warren, who literally took scholarship money from Indians, claiming she was Indian, this is somehow racist because Trump roasted her as Pocahontas, which meant she lied because when she did her DNA test and she came back, what was it, 1,024th Indian? You can't claim that and get a scholarship. That's how that works. So yes, he had every right to roast her. She lied. She lied for years. So please stop it. Now, in terms of the lawsuit,
1 minute.
you didn't address that after I brought it up because you didn't realize how the lawsuit actually ended. So I got you on that one. I'm gonna let you rock. But all of this other stuff, saying that I have more Indian in my blood than they do, who cares? That is not an act of racism. I know what an act of racism looks like personally, and that was not it. I'm offended and I'm going to fall out every time this man says a verb I don't like. That is a you thing. That's not a him thing. That's a you thing. Have your opinions of him. I have
30
opinions of him.
seconds.
But this whole notion that this man is this rabid racist running around here and you bringing up Donald Sterling and the 94 crime bill and all this other stuff is absurd. This has nothing to do with anything but Donald Trump, and you have not proven beyond reasonable doubt or whatever that he's an actual racist. You're in
10
your
seconds.
feelings, and I would offer that you get out of it. And I yield my time.
All right, so we're done with the Q&A part. At this time, if y'all need to grab something to drink or anything, are both of you good?
I'm
Everybody
I'm
good?
I'm fine.
All right.
Yeah,
So at this point,
we're
we're
finna
going to
open
move
this
to the
up.
10-second or the 10-minute question and answer for between you two. I'm going to let AJ since, or do y'all want to do another coin flip? Who wants to ask the first question?
Yeah, I'll let AJ pick this one. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Don't start this again. All right, cool. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I could. Hold on. I didn't have any pre-prepared questions, so hold on.
No, absolutely. And just to let y'all know, so this is what I would like to see, and I appreciate. I mean, both of you have been absolute class acts on this so far up to this point. T-Bone, I think you've definitely been more than willing to allot time when he had issues, and AJ, you didn't take advantage of the time that he actually gave you just to cut down on things. So I think that was a very classy move by both of you. So on this, I would ask you to still do the same thing. If one person asks a question, allow them to finish the question and then answer the question, address the question. If you're not addressing the question, they do have the opportunity to interject and push you to answer that said question. But if they're answering the question, please do not interrupt. Allow them time to finish. I don't want a monologue. Okay. So if either one of you start monologuing, call them out. But we'll just go back and forth. AJ, you ask the first question, then T-Bone, you ask a question, and we're going to do this back and forth for 10 minutes.
You know what? No, well, AJ was choosing whether he wanted me to ask the first question or him to ask the first question.
Oh, that's what I was choosing. I thought you said to go, but yeah, you can choose. Go ahead.
No, it's so you're choosing. Do you want to ask the first question, or do you want me to ask the first question?
Oh, I'm choosing. Got it. Okay. Yeah. I can ask the first question. I'm trying to.
All right, so I'm going to start. I'm going to let y'all run with this on your own. I'm not going to get in the middle of this unless you two just start going back and forth and talking over one another. At that point, I'm going to mute both of you and we're just going to reset. But I'm going to start the clock whenever the first question is asked. Is that cool?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I guess my first question would be when it comes to systems of oppression and abortion, why do you ignore that per capita argument?
So I don't ignore this per capita, and this is what I was talking about earlier about the facts and feelings. I understand that we abort our fetuses at a higher rate than white people per capita, right? And even like with unaliving, we unalive at a higher rate. What I'm simply stating is that the other facts that we look at per capita, which is into taking into response to the fact that we are only 13% of the population, even at this size, we're still at a disproportionate rate. So it wouldn't matter if we increase our population because by race, we're still experiencing this disparity.
Do I get to ask a follow up? I'm not
I
clear.
can,
No,
yeah,
it's
you can
T-Bone's
ask a follow
turn.
up if you want to.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead, go
Well,
ahead.
Okay, so
hold
my
on. T-Bone,
question is,
T-Bone,
you
it's your
made the
turn. Yeah, you can give it up or
okay.
whatever, but it is your turn. We're gonna
No,
go
no, no.
back and forth.
I'll ask. I'll give it up. Actually, go ahead and ask a follow up.
I don't remember, so you can go ahead.
Okay. I want to know if black people are spending $1.6 trillion in spending power, where is that money going? Because my data tells me otherwise. So I'm not denying your numbers, but if your claim is true, I want to know where this money is being spent.
I said it in my when I was talking. I made it clear that the money is not going back into the community. So when you look at the makeup of many of our communities, we don't own most of the commerce, the business. We don't control the money going in and out. In fact, I believe money lasts in the Black community for about 4 hours before it's gone. So that's the issue. And I literally said that when I was talking, but you must have missed it or my mic must have cut out or something. But I did say that. I did make that clear. And then also we're notorious for supporting other cultures and other people who we may produce like say a shoe, but we'll go to Gucci for the shoe instead of going to the upper class black person who's selling the same quality of product. So we have a tendency to do that as well.
Go ahead with your question.
I want to know if you know exactly, well, not exactly, but a roundabout number of how many poor white people there are in the United States.
I can look that number up really quick, but I don't
Sure,
think this really matters to the point because it was, well,
it does. It
to
does.
be honest with you, I don't think that it matters to the point because we
No,
were
no, no, no,
talking
no, no,
about
no,
how
no, no.
it's
I
affecting
didn't say.
certain people.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But I'm not saying argue the point. I'm just answer the question or don't. But don't argue. Don't argue the question.
so I don't know the specifics. What I do know is that we're at 44% as it pertains to white people in poverty compared to black people sitting at 20%. So
So,
we're more
but
than half. I can tell you that. Now go ahead.
no, no. Go ahead. We're. I think there's a delay.
Yeah, the exact number I don't have for you, but again, I don't think it matters. I can entertain it, but it's not going to go to any point.
Why would you say it don't matter before you even know the point being made? That's absurd. But go ahead. Go off about it. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you would like to draw to me why this point is important,
No,
I
I'm
will
good.
hear
I'm
you
good.
out.
I'm good. I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So as I stated before, we're at a 23.5% as it pertains to the wealth that we have compared to white people, right? If
Okay.
we're not able to get into the I'm
That's
sorry,
not an
if
answer.
we're
That's
not
not
able
an
to
answer.
get into businesses,
That's not an answer to the question. So you can go on with your question.
I thought it was my question. I'm sorry. Go ahead with your question. What was your question again?
Oh, you were asking a question. I thought you were just trying to filibuster with some other stuff. But go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is when we can look at the fact that we have 23.5% compared to our white counterparts as it pertains to how much money we have within the home, right? You already you already admitted that systemic racism is in play here. So when we're not paying reparations, when we had to go through Jim Crow, when we had to go through the 94 crime bill and the crack epidemic, and we understand that we weren't able to get the resources at the same rate, and I can go back in time to where we weren't able to get into the military, for example, we weren't able to create generational wealth at the same rate that white people were. Why is it that then you don't want to use this as a quote unquote excuse? Because I'm not stating excuse in the sense of stating that we ought not get over that barrier, but I'm acknowledging that that barrier exists and that black and brown people experience the effect of it.
Okay, again, this goes back to listening to comprehend, because if you listen to my open, when I said the systemic racism exists, and I said yes, and then I said, does it still affect it? And I said yes, and then I explained why it does, and I literally told you for a second time, I think when we got to the second topic, that it has nothing to do with the system that you believe in and everything to do with Black folks willfully participating in systems that oppress them. That's what I said. And you keep leaving that part out, but y'all are great at that. Y'all are great at taking what someone says and chopping it down to the narrative you need. So I literally answered that 3 times already. Now, my question for you. When I spoke to you before the debate, you said you didn't support financial reparations, yet you've been here caping for financial reparations for the last 30 minutes. Was there a change of heart, or did you lie?
Yeah, so again, this is the listening to comprehend that you were talking about earlier to me. I specifically said that as it pertains to descendants of slaves, reparations or restitution would be financial compensation. But I don't think that reparations are just predicated on slavery. We would also have to look at the Jim Crow era that we went through and how that affected us. And I do
We go
believe
through
that
Jim Crow.
reparations should be paid for that. However, it wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
financial compensation. These are going to be
Mm-hmm.
two separate entities. But again,
Okay.
that's why I was confused as to why you framed the question of only descendants of slaves, because if we're talking descendants of slaves, that changes my answer. So I could have answered that for you in this debate too, but you changed the question for me. So that's why I talked about financial compensation. Either ways, it doesn't matter, because the point being was that it was a moral claim. The question was should, right? Which is a moral claim. Ought we pay those reparations? And based off of the definition, I answered that.
Okay. Go ahead.
So you said that you were going to respond, and I'm eager to hear your response. So when we take a look at the Japanese reparations that were given out for the internment camps that we did, and we could draw the correlation to show that the descendants of the deceased were able to get these reparations. I want to know what the question was that you were going to ask me.
I don't remember, but was that earlier in the debate, or was that
Okay,
before?
well then, can I? I'm going to alter my question then. Because we acknowledge that slavery was wrong, you admitted to this. We also, I hope, would agree that the
I've
internment
never
camps were
done
wrong.
nothing.
So if we can see that the descendants of the deceased people receive reparations, give me the symmetry breaker as to why we should not replicate this within the Black community when they ought get these reparations as well.
Well, first of all, I'm not versed enough in the Japanese internment camp and who got what and how much they got and what happened, so I can't speak to that. So I'm not knowledgeable enough to speak to that.
Okay, okay, it's your question.
Y'all have 2 minutes left.
Gotcha. I would like to know what proof you have that the Central Park Five is innocent. Like proof.
Yeah, so based off of what I've seen, right, I can tell that, and we know that I believe it was Kevin Richardson, who was the youngest one, was beat prior to his parents in the interview. And I can, we can go into that debate as well, but I have pictures showing that he was coerced into giving up this testimony that you all love to say, well, they admitted to their guilt. They didn't actually admit to their guilt,
Proof.
right? It was
Ask for
them
proof. No, no,
actually
no, 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 no,
framing
no,
this
no,
in
no,
a
no, no, no,
certain
no, no,
way
no,
to
no, no,
force
no,
these boys
no,
to
no, no,
answer
no,
a
no, no.
certain way.
I asked for proof. I didn't ask for what you think. I asked for proof. Because I watched the confession tapes as well. I watched all, even the boys that didn't go down for the crime, and even Stephen Lopez, who should have went down with them. So I watched everybody's confession tapes. So I saw there was no coercion in those confession tapes. If you watch them from beginning to end, you would see that the only one that didn't have his parents there was Corey Wise. And the reason why his parents weren't there because he was 16 years old. And in the state of New York, you can be questioned without your parents 16 years old. Everybody else's parents was there. Everybody verified who they were, stated their address, stated their relationship. Kevin Richardson lied about how he got the scratch under his eye. And the black man who picked him up in the park, because you leave out the police officer that picked him up was black. The black officer that picked him up literally said, "How did you get that scratch under your eye?" He said, lied and told him that the dude's partner scratched him, getting him into the car. Absolute lie. And he said, I'm going to go next door and ask my partner if he scratched you. And he then said, no, it was the jogger. And that was the moment that broke everything open. They didn't know at that point that there was a jogger laying in a ravine in the park.
Okay, I don't mean to interject. We're at the 10-minute mark. T-Bone, if you have one final question that you want to ask, I'm going to allow you to ask a final question based on how that interaction went.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to his, but I could
No, you
just
can.
sum it up
You
there. I don't
you
think we
can
need
if
any
you want
more.
to respond, you can. I'll allow you to respond since he asked the question.
Right. So the response to that again, you're not listening to what I'm saying. There was still, and I don't believe that portion to be true. Right. That is going to be confession of the police officers, and Kevin Richardson tells a different story. Even after all of this was said and done. Right. You're looking at the interviews where the parents were there with Kevin Richardson. What I'm telling you is that there was an encounter prior to Kevin Richardson in that interview. And based off of what I've read, it was not in the police or in the police car in the park where this situation took place. Because, as I stated before, there was pictures of Kevin Richardson prior to the interview with his parents. So if they got the picture of Kevin Richardson and his face was completely clean, how would the jogger have scratched his face and then his face being completely clean when they get his mugshot? And then right after
Okay,
the mugshot,
you're
they
monologuing.
go into the interview with the parents and his face is scratched. That
Wait,
makes
wait, wait,
no
wait, wait, wait,
sense.
All right, hold on, hold on. AJ, if you want 30 seconds to respond, I'll give you 30 seconds.
That
T-Bone,
is
I'll give you another
absolutely
10 to
false.
15 seconds after that if you want to respond.
That is absolutely false. Kevin Richardson had that scratch when he got picked up. Stop it. And so Kevin Richardson could remix the story now that he has the public opinion on his side and everybody feeling sorry and celebrating the fact that they got away with not just raping that woman, but they also got away with all the other crimes they committed in the park that night. And guess who's the collateral damage for thugs like that? Me, right? So I have no empathy. I have no sympathy. I don't care at that
15
point.
seconds.
So if you're in the park acting up, you should be arrested. You should go to jail. You should have to pay for the crimes that you commit. I'm not playing that game with you.
All right.
I'm a, I don't want to respond. I'm just going to save it for our Central Park 5 debate.
Can you hear? Check, 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 check.
Yeah, I can hear you. I said I don't want to respond to it. I'm just going to save it for our Central Park 5 debate. We'll get into that at another time, man.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Actually,
I'm sorry, I
can
was
I
muted.
respond? Can I
Check,
respond with
check,
a quick
check.
picture? Is that possible?
You already yielded your time, but if AJ will allow it, I will
All right, never
allow it.
mind. Go
You
ahead.
can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, AJ. T-Bone wanted to show a quick picture as a response, real quick, before y'all get into closing arguments. Are you good with that? All right, guess not. So,
I'm gonna. Okay. So this is just a quick picture. This is the mugshot prior to. This is in the interview with his parents, and we can see the clear scratches and on his face. This is indisputable evidence to me. Indisputable proof. I mean, I don't know what else we need.
all right. So we're going to move on to closing arguments. AJ, you're muted. AJ, you're going first. You'll have 5 minutes, and then T-Bone, you will follow with 5 minutes. So, are you guys ready to go, or do you need a couple of minutes to get ready?
I'm
Can
ready.
you hear me? Because I'm having.
No, it's on you, AJ. It's your turn.
Okay. Okay, so what we heard here today was a lot of excuses for bad behavior, lots of excuses for people who want the government to sweep into town and declare that they are amazing and great and worth it. And that is not the government's job. We've heard today statistics that sway in the favor of making Black people these hapless, perpetual victims who don't have brains and can't figure it out. And I would argue that that's not the case. Black people are amazing, they are brilliant, and they can figure it out. Reading is fundamental. So when you can battle rap stats about all the ways it won't work, you can battle rap stats on the ways it will work. So whether it's 1865 or 2024,
AJ, there you go.
in this, damn it, in this day and age, your excuses absolutely must outweigh your actions must absolutely outweigh your excuses. So when you're sitting here trying to convince the world that you can't, guess what? They see you as a perpetual victim and know you will not grow from that. When you look at a man who was the commander in chief and say that this man is racist and still has yet to prove that, that is problematic. That is a symptom of media. That is a symptom of smear campaigns. That is a symptom of being left out of the greater conversation. That is a symptom of only seeing somebody when they want to say something, or when they want to report something that he did that may or may not have been good or put him in a good light. So that's the problem. The problem is being in our feelings, not understanding that, yes, there are times where challenges arise, but not every challenge in your life is because of the color of your skin. Not every challenge in your life is because you're a woman. Not every challenge in your life is because of these intersectional things that y'all love to put together to make yourself seem like you can't do it. Are there going to be boneheads on the ride? Absolutely. There are always going to be somebody in the world who doesn't like you. And for whatever reason, that should not stop the progress. So when you have a block of votes that can literally crash a political party and you don't maximize that block of votes to better your community, that's on you. That's not on them. They're getting what they want. They're keeping you in perpetual fits of believing you can't. That's what they want. So as long as you keep buying into this attitude or mentality that somehow you're going to be rescued and there's going to be a savior that comes along and tells you, oh, now you can make money. In 2024, you have the world at your fingertips. But that knowledge is not going to fall on your lap. You have to go seek it. And you have to be diligent about it. And if you're not diligent about it, you will remain what? A statistic. So when you don't want to be a statistic, you do things that take you out of that realm. Also, with the criminal justice systems, and we like oppressive systems, if you know the system is rigged against you, why would you do things that get you caught up in that very system? Just food for thought. When you do things that trap you into things you know are not going to work,
AJ, you're muted. So, okay. T-Bone, I stopped the clock since he went mute. When he comes back, I'll restart it. And
Yeah,
same
we're good.
thing for you. If it happens to you, I'll do the same thing. I know both of you are having issues.
Check, check,
AJ, you
check.
there?
No, check, check,
Yeah,
check,
we
check,
got
check.
you.
Check, check. Okay, cool. I don't know where I left off, but all that to say, um, arguing stats to represent feelings is misleading on its own. And it's not so much what the stats say, it's what you do about it. So a lot of what I experience in people like Tbone is performative. It's not really about being solutionary. And one of the ways I can point that out is how we have time. Well, not me, but I got things to do. But folks are on this app all day arguing mute points, talking about a bunch of nothing. And so, unless what you're saying is manifesting in the world, it is all just words. It is all just baseless arguments just to keep you proven, just to be proven right about something that you have the power to fix. And I yield my time.
All right. Thank you, AJ. All right,
All right.
T-Bone. I'm
So
going to
I
give you,
yeah.
whenever you go, you got 5 minutes.
Got you. So I feel that I won this debate minimum 2-3, and that's me being generous. Okay. When we're talking about this debate, we're talking about answering the questions and substantiating, right, our evidence as to why our claim is correct on the questions. And the first question that was asked: does systemic racism affect the black community today? AJ's answer was yes. So already in that aspect, I feel that there's nothing else that needs to be said. At no point in time did we ever argue that we ought not fix the situation. At no point in time did we ever say that we shouldn't ignore the effects that systemic racism causes. The question was simple. Should, or I'm sorry, does systemic racism still affect the black community today? And not only did I substantiate this with facts and data to represent my argument, but AJ helped me out by shooting himself in the foot and saying that it exists. He then responds by talking about work ethic, which again is about your feelings. You feel that black people do not have work ethic. You have not provided any data or sources to substantiate that we are lazy sons of bitches that just don't want to work. As it pertains to abortion, that didn't go to your argument either. Because as we're talking about the proportion of black people in this country, that still does not go to the effects. This is why per capita is important when we're talking about statistics and data. This is why sources matter. And in the first part of the debate, I didn't see any sources that were provided to substantiate his claim. So going on to the second part, where we talked about reparations, again, this was a moral claim. What he stated was that black people who are descendants are just looking for an excuse. Even if that was the case, whether it be an excuse, what I'm simply stating is that a wrongdoing was done. Again, this is a moral question. Should we and ought we pay reparations for the descendants of slaves? When we look at the definition of reparations, it is paying for a wrongdoing that has been done to a community or a person. And based off of the definition, it fits. I also gave you two examples of where reparations were paid by America. And let's not forget, through taxpayers, because of the wrongdoing that our country decided to do to other groups of people. And that the descendants of those said people, if they were deceased, were to be able to get them. You didn't give me a symmetry breaker. You did not tell me in any way, shape, or form why slavery was different than the internment camps and why we ought not pay those reparations if we did it in one sitting with the internment camp. So again, that claim was null and void too. Because the question was, should we pay reparations to the descendants of black slaves? And I didn't hear anything else except for I am or I feel, which is absolutely absurd. When we're going to Trump's racism, we wanted to talk about Central Park 5. And that's going to be a whole nother thing within itself. But again, the conversations about the casino, the conversations about the discrimination, all of the problematic things that he has done is racist. And I'm sure that once we finish this, we can have conversations about Joe Biden being racist as well. Because no one has ever stated that Joe Biden is not racist. But the question was he racist? I also gave you another scenario of another man who did the exact same thing or was similar to Donald Trump with saying problematic things, but did things for the black community. The only difference was that he wasn't a politician. He was the owner of a basketball team. Yet you weren't able to substantiate or give me a symmetry breaker as to why it would hold in one sitting that we call Donald Sterling a racist, but we don't do so with Donald Trump when they are similar people. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna just leave it at this and I'm gonna wrap this up. What I feel
Yep.
is that what we saw today was a conservative who operated in his feelings. I feel that this conservative did not provide any data or sources to back his claims, nor did he answer the questions properly that were asked and laid out for a reason. He shot himself in the foot with the first question. He didn't really go to anything with the second question except talking about how he felt about giving those reparations, not whether we should morally give them out. And as it pertains to the second, we started to talk about the Central Park Five instead of talking about Trump's racism, which, by the way, goes to the point because he still talked
You
about the
got
black
30
boys in the
seconds.
article. So I feel that I've won this debate. I think it was a great debate, but I do think that we need to operate in substantiating our claims with facts, statistics, and data instead of operating in our feelings. I yield my time.
All right, gentlemen. That concludes this debate. I think both of you did a great job. Again, I appreciate the you both are first class in my book. You both did a wonderful job. I really enjoyed moderating this for both of you. So now, if everybody will get their tickets out, now it's time for the door prizes. We've got a $20 gift card from Walmart that's got $7.13 left on it, and
I
three
can't
expired
stand
movie passes. So uh,
Oh
anyway,
my gosh.
yeah, no, again, I appreciate it. Everybody in the comments, if you would, gift both of these guys. They did a great job. Gift the host. And yeah, that's it for me. If y'all want to stay here and do what you want to do, stay here and do what you want to do. But thank you guys very much.
Can I ask you a quick question before you go, MJ?
Sure.
Well, it might be a private DM question. It was more about like things that I can do on my end. But I'll ask you that another time. I appreciate you moderating, man.
Yeah, not a problem. All right,
Yes,
guys.
thank you, MJ. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Y'all have a good night. Y'all take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have a good night, MJ.
All right, you too, Bill. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Oh man.
You guys
I
did
mean, we can put the poll up if
amazing.
y'all want to. I see it in the chat, but I'm just letting y'all know, like from my perspective, I know we're finna get into chaos in a second when we start letting people up, but just from my perspective, man, I don't feel like I lost this debate. We can do it off of the phone, like I said. We can see how the conversations are working out. We can do it based off of the phone, but we can see everybody within the chat and how y'all operate. Let's put
Holy
that
shit.
poll up. Let's see how y'all operating over here. Let's see if y'all acting. Yeah, that's crazy. W. Belinda in the chat. But
Wow.
put the poll up. I want to see how these conservatives operate in good faith, man. I really want to see it.
Somehow I was invited up, but I just want to say one thing. Call me broke again.
Oh my God, Belinda, thank you so much. You Belinda, are you there?
I'm here.
Was it me?
All
No, it's
right.
me.
So I
It's
hope
me.
everyone enjoyed the debate tonight. I It was really amazing. Would anyone like to open the door for questions to any of the debaters? Anybody? I have some. All right. So T-Bone, how did you feel about your performance tonight?
I think I did a good job. I could have structured this a little better, and that's on my end. But I don't think that we